Are you an angel, a starseed, a wise one, an elemental, or are you just mental? All right, guys, let's find out. What's up, you guys? Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the meditation channel. So I know that you've all heard of people saying, am I a starseed? Am I a fairy? I feel like I belong to the angelic realm. We've all heard of angels who've taken on human form and basically are helping people. So today we're going to talk about this, and I just wanted to mention very quickly, guys, that I have designed and written the Book of Realms. So I know a little bit about this. Essentially, I will tell you here that there are many realms, 50 in fact, that I have discovered, but they all stem from 4 core realms, okay? So most other realms are hybrids. And the 4 core realms, though, will always be wise ones, star people or star seeds, elementals, and of course, the angels. So let's talk about it. Okay, guys, so I wrote this book many years ago. I started writing it many years ago, and it just became its own thing. And then, of course, I created the Realms Oracle cards. So I have just dived into this world because I found it really fascinating. But at the end of the day, whether you believe in fairies, aliens, and all of that sort of stuff or not, it really comes down to archetypes. And I would really say even spiritual archetypes, because if we think about archetypes, we think about the father, the mother, the sage, what are the other ones? The healer, the teacher, we have all these archetypes, right? But when it comes to the spiritual archetypes, we haven't really explored that realm as much, that world. And I think that essentially the Book of Realms and the Realms Oracle cards really is what this is about. So it's helping you understand who you are spiritually, your spiritual journey, and what your gifts are in this lifetime and how you can basically apply those to thrive. Okay, guys, so we talked about the 4 core realms. Now, wise ones, star people or star seeds, elementals, and we have the angelic realm. So let's start with the wise ones. The wise ones are the souls that have incarnated time and time again on planet Earth. So they are the oldest souls here and the oldest Earth souls. In fact, they're the ones who basically are built to withstand the energy of Earth. They do a little bit better than the other realms. Now, wise ones tend to have a very intense energy, an intense presence. It's kind of like they walk in the room, their energy walks in the room before they do. They are often very intense people in general, and they're called wise ones for a reason, because they are wise. They don't do small talk. They don't like superficial talk. They love to dive deep, talk about philosophy and science and history and mysticism and the deep stuff. The superficial stuff really doesn't stimulate them, doesn't really like resonate with them. So they just like to talk about serious stuff, basically. Another personality trait, or another warning sign, if you like, that you're a wise one, is what you are attracted to. So wise ones tend to be attracted to old history. They love, for instance, like 17th century clothes and architecture and books and like furniture. They love like velvet clothes, big dresses, or like basically like somebody who likes to dress like Mozart kind of thing. Maybe top hats, like they might not wear it, but they're definitely drawn to it, or at least vintage clothing. So it doesn't have to be that old, but something old. They are very drawn to things that are basically ancient. And of course, they're very fascinated with history and certain periods and certain times in the past. Another trait that you are possibly a wise one is that you're gonna get gray hair early. I know this is a weird one, but it's actually a thing. I know a few wise ones who've gotten the gray hair in their 20s, and they literally encompass everything that I've just told you. They don't do small talk. They love old clothing, and they got gray hair very young. So it's just a trait of that old soul, that old energy that they carry with them. Now, the positive things about wise ones is that they are teachers, right? So they can pass on wisdom and information. They just love to talk about all of these things. The downfall to them is, unfortunately, they're quite angry. They hold a lot of pain and a lot of sometimes resentment, and then it's not easy for them to let things go. So they tend to hold on to things because they overanalyze things, or they just don't know how to process the emotions, or they dive so far and so deep that it's not something that they can digest. They have a lot of heart problems, so a lot of heart chakra issues because of the wound, and of course because this planet is just so heavy and dense and wounded. So they reflect the energy of the earth. Now, I would suggest in the Book of Realms, I actually mentioned a few meditations on healing the heart chakra that would be very helpful for wise ones, and essentially how they should kind of bring in a little bit of fun and joy, because they can be sometimes too intense. And people just kind of are like, all right, man, just relax for a minute. It's a bit much. Okay, so that's the wise ones. So the next one that we're going to talk about is the starseeds, the star people, the aliens. Okay, we've all heard of alien starseeds. I love them. I'm all about it. So the star people essentially are souls from other planets that have incarnated onto Earth. Oftentimes, these souls are much, much younger. So they haven't lived as many lifetimes on Earth as the wise ones, for instance. However, when we get into the hybrids, you'll find out that there is a mixture of both. But in general, starseeds are basically, you got to think of them kind of like the Steve Jobs, the Elon Musks. They are not great with emotions. And the reason for that is because on their planets, it's not that they have to deal with things the same way that humans do. They are often offbeat. And that is because to us, they are offbeat because they are essentially aliens. They're starseeds. So some of them are very obvious, and you can tell they'll literally be obsessed with space and spaceships and aliens and all that sort of stuff, and they will dress weirdly. They will always have something like it looks weird. They will be attracted maybe to weird colors, or maybe very plain. So they always have something weird about them. But the key ingredient with star people, usually it's their eyes. They will have something very unusual in their eyes, an unusual look, an unusual like far away kind of thing, or they'll genuinely just have unusual eyes. Now, star people have a really hard time, like I mentioned, with emotions, but they are also very sensitive. In fact, they're extremely sensitive. They're more sensitive to energy than anything else. So heavy, dense, negative energy, they don't usually like that. They try to keep the frequency and the energy contained and controlled because they enjoy that kind of energy. Now, another trait of star people is that they tend to have big eyes and small mouths, but that also depends on the type of starseed. So we can get into the whole different races and different planets, which goes way too far. But essentially, a sign that you're a star person is that you'll be obsessed with technology. You would love technology. You're sensitive to energy, and depending whether you're female or male, it is said that the females have been here longer than the males. Not sure why. Also, another trait that you might be a starseed female is that females don't like to give natural birth, or even just to give birth in general. So most starseeds avoid having children if they can. Clearly, Elon Musk did not get that memo. But they usually avoid that because they don't want to bring in karma. So they don't want to have to come back time and time again to deal with Earth, especially those who have a mission. They are usually workaholics. They're very task oriented, and they don't really have times for feelings because they're trying to get their mission accomplished. And of course, guys, like I mentioned, offbeat, depending on which starseed you are, you'll have different traits. But if you're obsessed with the alien stuff, with out of this world stuff, with energy, with technology, all that sort of stuff, that could be a clue that you are a starseed. Next, let's talk about the elementals. So the elementals are fairies, elves, gnomes, all of the fae, basically. And the thing about elementals is that they are technically the angels of nature, and they live in between the two realms of earth, the physical, and the spiritual. So this is why you hear fairy tales and stories where they appear and disappear, because they can go in between realities. So they live between dimensions, if you like. Now, typical trait about fairies and elves is, number one, you've heard the fairy tales, they kind of look like them. So they'll have like that pixie look, or that elvish look, or that gnome look, and they are 100% obsessed and need to be in nature. They cannot survive without trees, without animals, without nature. One of the things is as well, like which realm you're from, that again, we can dive into that. Of course, we can even talk about the mer people, so the mermaids and the incarnated dolphins. So there's like a whole realm, the silks. But essentially, if you're obsessed with nature, if you need nature, so of course, if you're a mermaid, you would be obsessed with being near the ocean. You need the water. You cannot live without the water. You would be obsessed with ocean animals. If you are an elemental, you probably live in the forest. So there's forest fairies, flower fairies, there's elves, like I said. So there's the different types of fairies as well. There's the star fairies as well. The star fairies are the fairies of other planets. So that's a whole other thing. And they're usually obsessed with like mushrooms and trippy plants. Now, the elementals are very rebellious and they incarnated into human form because essentially they're trying to protect Mother Nature. However, they are pack animals, except for the leprechauns. But they're actually put in a separate category in my book. So because of this, they get influenced very easily. And one of their biggest downfalls is they have to be careful not to fall into the wrong crowd. What often happens with them is they end up substance abuse or end up even in jail or something like that because they're so rebellious, so aggressive, because they have this undertone of anger underneath everything. They can be very peaceful and nice and sweet, but there's still this resentment or this undertone of anger because that's why they incarnated, because we're destroying the planet, their home, and they are trying to stop that. However, once they incarnate into a human form, they get distracted. There's a lot of things that distract you here, and they forget oftentimes of their path, and this is oftentimes when they start veering away from who they were truly meant to be, and this is oftentimes when destructive patterns and cycles fall in. So a big warning for them: stay on track and you'll be fine. If you fall off, you'll know, because then things become a mess. Now, final realm is the angelic realm. Now, the angelic realms are essentially angels who have reincarnated into human form. Now, unlike the elementals or the star people, the angels, even though they're said to be a species of alien, we've heard that theory before, essentially they do not have a human physical body. And so for them, coming into planet Earth is like going into a battlefield basically naked. It is incredibly intense. It is incredibly heavy for them. And they're said to be like the bravest among their kind to incarnate into human form. Now, this often manifests in some of them carrying extra weight as a buffer. Now, this doesn't mean all of them have this, but many of them, especially the purer ones, the newer souls, tend to be heavier set. But again, that's not always necessarily the case. Now, the key ingredient with angels is oftentimes they will have just this welcoming, warm, inviting, friendly energy. They make everybody feel good around them. They're always super sweet and pleasant, and they love positivity. They love anything happy and yay and da-da-da. And unfortunately, they can fall into toxic positivity and can also become a little passive aggressive. And this oftentimes backfires for them. They can also become accidental enablers because they're constantly trying to help people and heal people because they cannot handle, again, the negativity. And they accidentally end up doing things for people or trying to save people. And then they often become part of the problem or get involved in situations where they're like, I didn't want to get involved in this. And now you're in it. They are also very shy and very kind. They don't always do great in big groups. They prefer like to be hidden away. However, it depends on the angel again, and it depends whether you're a hybrid or not. So that is just the general, but again, it depends on the individual here. So the other thing that angels are here, they're basically healers, like I said, so they're here to help people. And so as long as they learn how to have strong boundaries and self-worth, build on their self-esteem, they will thrive. But if they don't work on that, this is when they end up falling into negative situations or bad patterns, or especially bad relationships. So they have to be very, very careful about that. Okay, guys, so we talked about the 4 core realms, but now, like I mentioned, there are 50 realms in the Book of Realms. So I just touched on the surface, but essentially you will notice that you might have traits of one only, or maybe of one and the other. So you might have similarities to, for instance, the elemental, but you also are fascinated with space, or you feel like you're a wise one, but then you have angelic traits. So in the Book of Realms, essentially, you can discover if you are a hybrid simply by reading about it. And I also give healing tools in there So yeah, so leave a comment below and let me know what realm you think you belong to, what realm you think I belong to, because that'll be an interesting one. And I bet you'll never guess, unless of course you follow me on TikTok and all that sort of stuff, because I've mentioned it before. So guys, let me know, and I would love to hear a little bit more about your opinion on the realms. Did you also check out my realms oracle cards? They're amazing. I highly recommend them, not because I designed them, but because they've been getting amazing reviews and people have been loving them. So I'm so proud of my work. Don't forget, guys, by the way, to like and subscribe and to hit that bell, the little bell thingy. Now, the reason why I say that is because whenever I post anything new, if you hit the bell, it tells you when I post anything new, or not. That's fine too. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and hopefully I will see you soon. Have a magical day.